President Taylor's white moonlight has returned. His mother handed me a check. The real one is back. You, the counterfeit, should step aside. 10 million. Leave my son. I stared at the check, frowning. What's wrong? Too little? 20 million. Leave my son. I sucked in a sharp breath. 30 million. If you still refuse, Deal. I'll leave. I cut her off. I believe in taking the win and walking away. Honestly, I would have been content with 10 million. Who knew she'd raise the price all on her own? Fine. Just as you said, I'll pack and leave today. But I have two conditions. She frowned deeply, as if confirming her expectations that I'd be insatiably greedy. First, I don't want a check, I only accept a bank transfer. Second, for this transfer, we must sign a formal gift agreement. And have it notarized. No sooner had I finished speaking than she sighed and immediately made a phone call. 2 minutes later, the Taylor family butler arrived, contract in hand. Following the advice my lawyer gave me last night, I read the gift agreement carefully. Once I confirmed there were no issues, I nodded and signed. Knowing this meeting was coming, I had deliberately arranged to meet her yesterday at a cafe right next to the notary office. So the notarization was done just as swiftly. Everything completed, my phone buzzed with a cheerful notification. 30 million, deposited directly into my account. That's Taylor family efficiency for you. I waved goodbye to Madam Taylor with a smile, though she didn't bother to acknowledge me. Once she left, I rushed straight to the tax bureau. Paying taxes is the duty of every citizen. After fulfilling my civic obligation, I stared at my bank balance again. The tax cut hurt, a lot. Still, I felt like the metaphorical red scarf on my chest shone brighter with pride. I walked out of the tax office tall and proud. The staff even waved as I left, as if saying, "Come again soon." Just as I stepped out with my left foot, my phone rang again. "Good afternoon, Miss Brown." Ah, it was the chauffeur sent by the airline to pick me up. "I'm Jenny Brown. I keep my word. I told Madam Taylor I'd leave today, and I meant it. From booking the first-class ticket to clearing security and boarding the plane, it was all smooth as silk. So smooth, in fact, that by the time I pulled out my phone to check WeChat, the plane had already reached cruising altitude. There it was, James Taylor's message, front and center, "Tell the housekeeper to ready a guest room. Lisa's staying over tonight." Ugh. That message had been sent 2 hours ago. There were 2 more messages after that, one an hour ago and another just 30 minutes ago. "Jenny Brown, what kind of tantrum are you throwing this time?" Excuse me? I wasn't throwing a tantrum. I was just too busy collecting hush money from your mother to check my phone. But then it hit me, James was bringing Lisa back to the house? Wouldn't he immediately notice I was gone? And the state of the house, stripped bare? After all, ever since I found out last week that Lisa Johnson, James's white moonlight, was returning, I hadn't been idle. While James went to the airport to pick her up, I was arranging for luxury resale pickups. While he escorted her to various events, I was appraising and selling jewelry. By the time he publicly announced Lisa's new position at Taylor Group, I had liquidated all my assets in Needham, including the moment his mother offered me money to leave. I had already consulted with my lawyer on how to secure that money legally and safely. After all, I knew the reason Lisa left James in the first place was because his mother bought her off too. What Madam Taylor didn't expect was that James, after losing Lisa, would fall for a stand-in she liked even less, me. So with me as contrast, Lisa's return became more acceptable. But me? I was just collateral damage. James's heart was never with me, and his mother tried to crush me with cash. I had no choice but to walk away quietly, with my humble wealth in hand. I had wanted to leave quietly. Let James and Lisa live happily ever after. But why was James still thinking about me? He had dozens of properties to choose from, why insist on bringing Lisa to the one I had just vacated? But soon, his madness made sense. It was Lisa. When my flight landed, I idly scrolled through Weibo while waiting. One post was recommended to me at Moonset in Hawaiian, still feels so familiar. The painting I gave him is still there. The picture showed a living room I knew intimately, I'd lived there for over 2 years. That account had followed me last week, coinciding with Lisa's return. Since then, it had documented everything Lisa and James did together, every little detail. I thought back to my frantic round of asset liquidation. After all that, the living room had been stripped to its bones. All that was left were the sofa, the coffee table, and one painting on the wall. Oh, right. I'd asked the reseller about it. He said it was worthless and didn't take it. Turns out, the painting that had hung there for years was a gift from James's white moonlight. Fantastic. I'd been living under a giant metaphorical green hat the whole time. I was not happy. I needed a drink, and maybe a male model or two. By the time James's next message came through, I was already standing outside Euphoria, the most extravagant, elite ladies' club in North City. So, Jenny Brown, running away from home, huh? Looks like I've spoiled you too much these past 2 years. Clearly, James had realized I'd packed my things and left. After my awakening, I made sure every gift from James was declared a voluntary offering. Every transaction was recorded. Every item had a note. Still, he had an entire corporate legal team behind him. If he decided I'd run off with his money, he could try to claw it back. So I was ready to spend it, quickly. Especially with the kind of charming, playful, sweet-talking younger men I was now surrounded by. Next to them, that arrogant old man James was completely bland. What, I ignore you for a week and you go full-on disappearing act? John, one of the younger guys, was ridiculously handsome and insisted on bridal carrying me to the sofa. Who gave you the guts to ignore my messages? Raymond, the roguishly handsome one, passionately showed off his abs by cracking walnuts with them. If this is how you're trying to get my attention. Tom, the artsy type, serenaded me with fantasy impromptu, his fingers quick and graceful. Jenny. Perfect. Ugh. So annoying. With my left hand, I blocked James. My right hand? Not idle either. Raymond insisted his walnut trick was more impressive than a piano performance. He made me touch his abs, just to check how hard they were. I woke up in a luxury suite. Groggy, I pressed the button at my bedside. A team of attendants swarmed in. From grooming to dressing, everything was laid out for me. It almost felt like I'd time-traveled into a noble family in ancient times. TSK. Is James okay with you running off to play like this? The man leaning in the doorway teased. He had fox-like eyes, a high-bridged nose, and thin lips. His face screamed playboy. And yet, he, Tim White, was the second male lead in the story, the one who loved me deeply. According to the plot, after Lisa returned, her flirtation with James drove me away, heartbroken. Then I came to North City. I looked for a place to live, a new job, only to be sabotaged again and again by Lisa behind the scenes. At my lowest, that was when I met the second male lead. Tim White, North City's wealthiest young heir, was also its most notorious playboy. And yet, this infamous flirt found himself drawn to my unyielding resilience. At first, he lent a helping hand. Then, slowly, he fell for me. And eventually, even knowing my heart belonged to someone else, he still couldn't pull himself out. According to the original storyline, he'd even sacrifice a prime business opportunity in Needham, his own company's venture, just to fulfill my happiness with James. But now that I'm awake? There's no way I'm letting that plot play out again. Months ago, I deliberately sought Tim out. We first met through an online game. I studied his interests and became his regular gaming partner. To prevent him from falling for me like the plot demanded, I deliberately behaved very differently from the novel's version of myself. In the original, I was quiet and reserved, blushing just from talking to the opposite sex. Now, I was bold, loud, and full of sass. In-game, I flirted outrageously, chasing handsome characters with lines like, "Let me build you a home, babe." The original me was soft and accommodating, always saying things like, "I'm fine, it's okay," and "I'm sorry." Now, I blew up at the slightest provocation with, "None of your business, mind your own damn business," and "Don't mess with your daddy." Of course, even with the gaming bond, taking things offline wasn't easy. But Tim was a trust fund kid. And like most trust fund kids, he lived under the shadow of comparison, especially with an even more accomplished half-brother. What do rich kids fear most? Being outshined. Losing daddy's financial support. That was Tim's sore spot. At least, it used to be. These past few months, White family's operations, particularly in the southwestern region and Needham, had taken off. And Tim? He played a part in it. A big part of that success was also thanks to me. His father was so pleased, he waved his hand and offered Tim several companies to manage. But Tim quickly refused. He didn't want control. Just cash. The servants had already helped me wash up and laid out an extravagant breakfast. By then, Tim was lounging in the suite's drawing room, sipping his morning tea, smugly recounting how well his father had been treating him lately. I was less than pleased. I yanked the spoon right out of his hand. Let's be clear, my reason for sticking around the second male lead wasn't guilt or redemption. And it definitely wasn't some twisted revenge plot for James choosing someone else. The business tips I gave Tim? Not for brownie points or to help him impress his dad for extra allowance. No, I chose Tim because, in this world, he was the highest level resource I could realistically partner with. The money I got from Taylor family was close to 9 figures. But that amount, in the eyes of families like the Taylors and Whites, was hardly worth mentioning. Sure, I had the money, but what if James or his mother decided to go back on their word? If they tried to reclaim it, with the power they held, I wouldn't stand a chance. I needed backing. I needed the White family behind me. I needed their leverage to expand. Even with my knowledge of the plot, Without industry connections, I'd never survive in the business jungle. With that money alone, I'd be devoured in minutes. So, I coaxed him gently. Think about it. You only care about the cash, but what happens when that cash runs out? Then you're back to begging your dad for handouts. And your brother? He's sharp as hell. Just because you don't want the company doesn't mean he won't grab it. What if your dad decides to retire in a few years and hands it all to him? What'll you do then? Sit around twiddling your thumbs, asking your brother for lunch money? Tim fell silent, his expression shifting a few times. So what do? Take over a few companies, like my dad wants? But managing companies is hard. All I want is to be a rich playboy who eats, drinks, and chills. He looked utterly pained. TCH. No wonder I couldn't stand you in the original story. No ambition. All hormones. Once your parents fall, you'll be shredded like meat on the chopping block. James might be a fool, but at least he held real power in Taylor family. Still, I didn't want either of them. I preferred John's waist, Raymond's abs, and Tom's hands. Just thinking about it made my mind wander. But first, time to lock in this little air. I told Tim, it's okay. I'll help you. Over the past few months, I hadn't just given him tips, I'd laid out full-blown strategies. He'd seen the results. I promised to be his secretary and help him run the companies his father wanted to hand over. He wouldn't have to lift a finger. The money would multiply on its own. He could go back to his playboy lifestyle, totally independent from his father or brother. My condition? Profit sharing, of course. Tim didn't even hesitate. He grinned and agreed. Damn, Jenny. No wonder you used to be with James. You've got brains. I rolled my eyes. So, where are we going to party tonight? Now this topic got me excited. You're the host, right? Shouldn't you be the one showing hospitality? Why are you asking me? I don't know this scene. Fine. I'll take you somewhere new today. Oh, and about those guys from last night, they were decent. TCH, I'll show you even better ones tonight. I was starting to understand why Tim was so hopelessly unmotivated. The club we went to had a 6 feet 1 inch guard with legs for days standing at the door. But the ambience? Nothing like the neon haze I expected. It was like stepping into a medieval European palace, lavishly opulent, perfumed air, golden chandeliers. Live classical music drifted through the space. And then, I saw a familiar face. You know him? Tim asked, catching my reaction. I nodded, then shook my head. No freaking way. That was the breakout star from last year's hottest drama. For a while, I'd even been a fan of his face. He comes here to party too? I was stunned. He always gave off sweet, innocent boy-next-door vibes. They don't come to party, Tim replied dryly. They work here. Wait, what? If you like him, I can have him keep you company later. Tim gave me a look like I'd never seen luxury in my life. But I suggest you take a look around first. There are better ones. While he spoke, the young idol winked at me, subtle as a hammer. Practically screamed, pick me, Nuna. God. The depravity of capital. The decadence of luxury. The corruption of money. I swore, I'd become capital itself. Jenny, have you picked one? No, not yet. I need more time to browse. One's not enough? Even in games I go 1v5. You want me to 1v1 here? Tim. No wonder people say the newly rich are the worst. I indulged for a week, drowning in luxury. By the end, I felt utterly drained, physically and spiritually. Of course, I hadn't forgotten my mission. Tim didn't disappoint either. After a round of playful persuasion and serious conversation, he took over 2 companies with ease. His dad said it was just for practice. Damn capitalists. And their pampered idiot sons. Life had been so smooth, so full of wins, that I almost forgot about James entirely. Until he called me again. Jenny, it's been a while. Don't you think it's time to admit you were wrong? Ugh. Just my luck. I'd forgotten to block his number. Annoyed, I squeezed the abs of my shirtless assistant beside me. Was I wrong? Oh yes, I was terribly, terribly wrong. If I'd known leaving James would lead to such a luxurious and carefree life, I would have done it a long time ago. But lately, I'd been swamped. After Tim took over the companies, he kept up the act for 2 days before going full slacker mode. I had to run everything. I barely had time to party anymore. Still, being busy had its benefits. Tim loved to mess around, and his father knew exactly what kind of son he had. That's why the companies he assigned Tim weren't part of White family's core assets. Even if Tim tanked them, it wouldn't matter much. But oddly enough, ever since Tim took over, the once average companies started booming. Of course, Tim's dad knew his son wasn't the reason. He also knew I was the one behind the scenes. I still remember last week when Tim's father summoned me to the White family headquarters. I was a bit nervous on the way there. I wasn't sure how he'd view me, the one essentially running the companies in Tim's name. But what I didn't expect was this: he thought I was Tim's girlfriend. I quickly explained that I wasn't. But he looked at me like he'd seen through everything, and was relieved. He told me that after Tim's mother passed away, the boy had spiraled into a life of hedonism. He never stepped into the office. Just drank, partied, and fooled around. Yelling didn't work. Kind words didn't help. But ever since I entered the picture, he noticed a change. Sure, Tim was still lazy, still barely showed up at the office, but at least now, he cared a little. And that was a good start. Tim's dad said he'd done his research. He knew I used to be James's girlfriend. That made my heart skip. Damn it. That curse passed with James. But he waved it off. He said none of that mattered, so long as I kept steering Tim in the right direction, doing what needed to be done. If I could do that, he'd turn a blind eye to the rest. Translation: he'd let me in on some of the benefits. By that point, I had a feeling he already knew I'd started my own company. Of course I had. After raking in a fortune from James, why would I settle for just working under Tim? Sure, I technically ran his businesses, but being on payroll, even with hidden perks, was always unstable and short-lived. So I took my money and started something of my own. The business? Naturally, it revolved around supplying products and services tied to Tim's companies. And since I didn't have to spend big on PR or corporate bloat, I could offer prices much lower than the competitors. Same quality, better cost. Why wouldn't White Family pick me? Besides, I planned to tie my interests to Tim's, so I had already run the idea by him. He was totally chill about it, waved his hand and said as long as I fulfilled my promises to him, he didn't care. His words exactly: money is money. Better to let your own people make it. And since Master White himself had said so, I went all in. Yup. At this point, I wasn't his assistant, I was his brother. So the fact that Tim's dad got everything else right but still insisted on seeing me as Tim's girlfriend? That I couldn't figure out. I mean, what kind of good boyfriend parties every night while his girlfriend is stuck alone in the office managing the company? Still, I didn't argue. As long as things were working out in my favor, I could play along with anything. After that meeting, I started correcting Tim. Because let's face it, if Tim crumbles, my bright future crumbles with him. And so, Tim went to a bar? Fire inspection. Tim hit the club? Surprise police raid, drugs and gambling checks. Most ridiculous of all? Tim threw a yacht party, and the yacht lost power. I've lived over 20 damn years and never seen this much bad luck. Tim sat in his sports car, pulling at his hair in exasperation. I pursed my lips, trying to keep a straight face. Bro, there's something I've been meaning to tell you. Tim turned to me, confused. I laid it out. Come on. You think all of this is just a coincidence? Take those inspections, be honest. Back when you were young Master White, did this kind of thing ever happen? Even if they didn't respect you, they'd respect your dad. When did anyone ever ask you to cooperate with these raids? Those departments used to coordinate with you. Tim's face began to tighten as he thought it through. And that yacht? That's your personal treasure, right? Maintained daily by professionals. So explain this to me, how the hell does it suddenly lose power? Tim's eyes widened in alarm. Wait, do you think someone's trying to assassinate me? I rolled my eyes. Forget it. Being dumb has its advantages, makes people easier to manipulate. I told him the truth. He hadn't been paying attention to White Family's recent struggles. But I had. And I knew exactly what was going on. White Family was on a downward slope. The two companies we were managing? They were technically subsidiaries under the White umbrella, so of course they shared business ties. And that's why I had insight. Things were declining, and that meant people had stopped respecting the White name. Even his yacht was being neglected. What would come next? At this rate, Tim would be just another rich kid no one cared about, kicked on the street, peed on by a stray dog. And worse. Haven't you noticed your dad's hair turning gray lately? Tim paused, thinking. Then nodded. Yeah, he's been stressed. Tired. Of course he is. Think about it, he's getting older, and his son's still a screw-up. The company's on the verge of collapse. If it were me, I'd be losing sleep too. A rare flash of guilt crossed Tim's face. His lips pressed into a tight line. Then he blinked and asked, wait, how do you know my dad's hair is turning gray? I bullshitted without missing a beat, saw it on TV. Please. I called his dad the old man every day, but he didn't look old at all. The patriarch of the White family was pushing 70, but thanks to his elite medical team, he still had a full head of dark hair. Actually, for Tim's reform, his dad had even agreed to dye it granny gray for effect. Oddly enough, on the same day Tim noticed the gray hair, he didn't go out partying. He went home to the family estate and had dinner with his father. I don't know what Tim and his father talked about that night, but whatever it was, it clearly hit the right notes. Because by the next evening, Tim's dad's assistant contacted me, asking me to get ready and accompany Tim to work at the White family's corporate headquarters. And as for my little side company, that modest, scrappy venture of mine, Tim's dad decided to inject some capital. He said it was to help me stay focused, but the message was clear. From now on, my business would enjoy official backing from White family and its subsidiaries. This kind of move sent a very clear signal to the market. White family was behind me. Level up, baby. My company soared. I asked Tim's dad to help me bring in 2 professional managers, just to ease the operational load. With that, I had no more loose ends to worry about. Tim, panicking over his family's potential downfall, started learning seriously. And Tim's dad couldn't be prouder. Every time I saw my bank balance shoot up, I felt like I'd just turbocharged my engine. Every day, I woke up brimming with purpose. And as someone that busy, I had completely forgotten about James. After I blocked his number, he did quiet down for a bit. But then, like mold in a damp basement, he started creeping back, calling from other numbers to harass me. I'm a small-time CEO and an executive at White family now. I deal with calls all day. Although my main line has a whitelist and my secondary phone is strictly monitored by my abs-bearing assistant, James still found ways to get through. How? He started borrowing phones from industry leaders, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Smith, Mr. Gray. And after I answered, I'd get radio silence. Just me, saying, hello? Hello, repeatedly, before one of them would sheepishly admit. Sorry, President Brown, that was President Taylor using my phone. He, must have dialed the wrong number. Damn it. This guy is unbelievable. Still, I didn't want to completely fall out with James just yet. Business is business, and Taylor family still holds influence in the Southwest. If I want to expand there, it's hard to bypass them entirely. Sure, I could avoid him, but if James feels even a little guilty about the past, things might go smoother for me. So I let him act out. He even started liking my posts on Weibo again. I didn't block him. Sometimes, when I was bored, I'd snuggle up next to some soft little boy toy and post some dramatic, melancholic nonsense just for fun. James always came running into my DMs. I read every message. Replied to none. It was a game, let him imagine, let him wallow, let him squirm. But just when I thought James was already operating at peak cringe, Lisa went full psycho. She posted a highly suggestive photo on Weibo. She was wearing a silk slip dress, cleavage on full display, gazing into the mirror. But the real kicker? Behind her, half visible on the bed, lay James Taylor, shirtless, eyes closed, clearly resting. Caption? Your white moonlight, and your red mole. I took a screenshot and immediately closed the app. Any slower and I would have had to bleach my eyes, and possibly question the collective IQ of humanity. But I knew why she did it. In the original plot, Lisa's manipulative ways had no end. Even after pushing James to drive me away, she kept going. She posted Weibo updates that only I could see, everyone a daily slice of life with James. Morning, noon, and night. More diligent than your average influencer. How do I know they were visible to only me? Because in the original timeline, when James and I reconciled, I once used his phone to scroll through Weibo, and saw everything. Even so, back in the book, she never stooped this low. But I suppose things had changed. With James treating me differently than in the book, Lisa must have felt threatened. Back then, controlled by the story, I used to suffer from emotional whiplash every time I saw her posts. Now, I was thriving. So I posted the screenshot on my Weibo and tagged James, President Taylor, just a friendly suggestion, for the sake of Taylor family's stock price, control your woman. I didn't expect it to blow up. I was in a meeting when my assistant Leon interrupted. Boss, the hashtag, President Taylor control your woman, is trending. You need to check Weibo. I pulled out my phone and, wow. My Weibo was on fire. Turns out Lisa had made another post, trying to clear her name. Passive-aggressive. Petty. The usual. She implied I was jealous. Hilariously, the internet split into 2 camps. One side, wow. She's gorgeous. Power couple vibes. Some bitter old hag must be jealous to tag like that. The other, let's be honest, this woman's not wrong. If a photo like that gets out, forget morals. President Taylor can't even manage his own people. As an investor? I'd think twice. I stared at the screen. Old hag? Excuse me? Leon, do I look old to you? I asked my assistant. Ma'am? Are you serious? Remember that director Tim brought to dinner? He offered you a role as the hot college nerd. Did you forget that? I touched my face. Fair point. 7-figure annual beauty and fitness expenses don't lie. Maybe it's your Weibo bio? Leon suggested, catching on. He opened my profile. Assistant to the President, White Family Holdings. Oh, right. A while back, our PR department had suggested we follow the M Group's lead. Their executives had started running active social media accounts, generating buzz, boosting brand image. I supported the idea fully, so they used my account for the first trial. Just a simple certification. No photo, nothing fancy. Then I got busy, and totally forgot about it. Great. One job title, and they assume I'm some middle-aged relic? I'm younger than Lisa, for heaven's sake. And hello? Seasoned women are premium grade now, didn't you know? But this sudden buzz? It was the perfect chance to build my personal brand and cement my image as the first executive influencer of White Family. I immediately called a joint meeting with PR and marketing. By midnight, we had a full action plan. The PR team booked a top celebrity photographer to shoot new portraits. When I saw the results, even I had to admit, I looked amazing. Following the plan, I posted just one sentence on my Weibo: the past cannot be chased. The future still awaits. Short, cryptic, deliberate. I had been James's girlfriend. And I knew that truth would eventually be unearthed. Rather than wait for someone to expose it, I chose to take the lead. So I posted just that line, while the company's PR accounts worked behind the scenes. Marketing channels released news hinting that I was James's ex. And subtly? They implied Lisa might have been the third party. Meanwhile, White Family's official accounts posted photos of me at recent corporate events and shared business news. The narrative? Dedicated. Professional. Powerful. If public opinion had been split before, it now leaned entirely to one side. Jealousy? Who said Sister Jenny was jealous of Lisa? Step up and get slapped. Excuse me. I will not allow anyone to miss Sister Jenny's new portrait. Intellectual elegance is a whole genre, and I love it. White Family, are you blind? You just now decided to show off this treasure of a woman? She is your living business card. You face-obsessed people, look at Jenny's resume too. You'll love her even more. Wait, why is someone this incredible an ex? And Lisa's the one who replaced her? Really? Ugh, typical men. The garbage outside always looks better than the warm meal at home. Don't just cheer in White Family's comment section, someone check on Taylor Family too. Taylor Family equals trash men. Sisters, I want to wake up tomorrow and see Taylor Family bankrupt. No clue what James is doing now, but comparing Lisa to our amazing Sister Jenny? Bet he's hiding in a corner somewhere, full of regret. Whether James regretted it or not, I didn't know. But Taylor Family's official account had been dead silent. And I'll admit, I was curious. After all, we had contingency plans in place to launch a full marketing counterattack against Taylor Family if necessary. Never needed to use them. Because the next evening, I ran into James at a business dinner. It was a private event hosted by a major figure in North City. I was surprised to see James there. Tim and I arrived together. When he spotted James, he raised a brow and joked, Taylor Family's stock is bleeding green like a grassland today, and he still has the mood to chase you down. I frowned. I have no idea why he's here. If he was really just here for the party, it didn't make much sense. Needham was hundreds of miles away from North City. And this event had little to do with Taylor Group's business sector. But we didn't have to wonder long. James really was there for me. The moment he saw me, he came straight over and started explaining. Lisa's infamous photo? She took it while he was drunk and unaware. He and Lisa weren't a thing, definitely not what the internet was suggesting. Even if they were a thing, what did that have to do with me? Jenny, come back. I know you're angry at me, and Lisa. I admit, I overstepped before. I didn't realize how many underhanded things Lisa was doing behind my back. But I've already fired her from Taylor Family. You don't need to worry anymore. If you still want to work, Taylor Family is just as good. I can even give you the vice president position. Cough cough. I choked on my water. Excuse me? Do I look like a charity dump for trash men? And what, is the Taylor Family VP title supposed to impress me? In the original novel, Taylor Family was a strong company. But that was due to James's male lead Halo and me, his delusional female lead, feeding him resources stolen from the second male lead. Now? That stock drop today was only the beginning. I have zero confidence in a man who can't manage his personal life or judge character properly to lead a company anywhere successful. If I remember right, in the original story, James only came looking for me after I returned to Needham. I'd worked hard to establish myself in North City. Job hunting alone. Moving house alone. Going to the hospital alone. Meanwhile, Lisa was flaunting her new life. High-end venues. Lavish gifts. Romantic trips. James seemed desperate to make up for their years apart. It was almost like he was trying to overwrite my presence in his life with double the affection for Lisa. And his attempts to reconcile only began after I had built a new life, when I returned to Needham, steady, poised, and no longer the insecure wreck I once was. But even then, our reunion was just a repetition of old mistakes. Lisa meddled. James still couldn't see through her fake sweetness. He claimed he loved me, but always took her side. And me? I was caught in that toxic web. Again and again. So twisted up, I even tried helping Taylor family win business from Tim. Looking back now, all I want to do is slap that old version of myself. The only explanation? Some sadistic romance brain author must have hijacked my common sense. But I'm awake now. My romantic fate is no longer dictated by some trashy novel plot. And I don't need to be hurt to feel love. Once again, I turned James down, firmly, but gracefully. I always leave room when I make a move. Not for going back, but to make my next move easier. Lisa arrived as the dinner wrapped up. James had taken a call earlier, and I could tell he was annoyed. He hung up, but the calls kept coming. Eventually, he turned off his phone. As we walked toward the entrance, I saw her. Lisa, standing outside, blocked by the doorman. The moment she spotted James, her face lit up with embarrassment and anticipation. "James, what are you doing? Why didn't you answer your phone? They wouldn't let me in." Then she saw me. And her voice cut off like a snapped string. Rage flooded her face. "Of course. She's here. Jenny, you shameless witch. You've got another man by your side, but you're still pining for James? You think you're something now? You're just clinging to another man's resources. That's enough. Shut up." By then, guests had started to exit. Some glanced over curiously. James looked at Lisa, humiliated. He turned to me, as if wanting to explain again. But I smiled, cutting him off. "President Taylor, just a reminder, manage your woman. Try not to embarrass yourself in public." As I walked past Lisa, meeting her furious gaze, I corrected her calmly, "Miss Johnson, don't project your situation onto others. I have no interest in James. Also, tonight's event? Even if you'd made it inside, you'd only be his +1. I was here as an official guest, invited to discuss business. We're not the same. And for the record? James didn't even want to bring you. So instead of blaming other women, maybe reflect. If I were you, I'd either dump the man. Or use his name to elevate myself." Just then, my car pulled up. I glanced at Tim. He was still grinning from the chaos, amusement sparkling in his eyes. "You go ahead. My car's right behind yours," he said. While waiting at a red light, I suddenly recalled a moment from the original novel. After I reconciled with James, Lisa played her usual coy, pitiful act and asked him to take her to a business event. It was the golden wedding anniversary of a respected industry elder, a prestigious occasion where attendees typically brought their partners. The elder's daughter knew me. She reached out and said she would send me an invitation. Knowing James was close with this elder and would definitely be attending, I told her not to bother sending the invite, I'd be going with him. But in the end, James never extended a hand to me. Instead, I saw photos of him and Lisa smiling sweetly together at the event, splashed across entertainment media. I should never have let go of my pride. Compared to the doormat I was in the novel, I much prefer who I am now. I like the feeling of always holding the steering wheel of my life in my own hands. This freedom? It deserved a celebration. So halfway home, I messaged my assistant to book a private venue. "Sis, should I find you some drinking companions? 7 or 8. Pick them based on my usual preferences." To be honest, one reason I've kept Leon as my assistant all this time, aside from his looks and abs, is that he always gets things done without fail. What I didn't expect was, he gets things done too literally. He never even questions my instructions. So when I arrived at the venue, I was floored. The place was packed. Wall to wall, like a modeling agency's open casting. The marketing manager, beaming, informed me that they had gathered the top-tier male models in the entire city, just for me. I pulled out my phone to yell at Leon. And then realized, while waiting at that red light, I'd misread my own message. 70 to 80 instead of 7 to 8. Well, 7 or 8 and 70 or 80 do look kind of similar at a glance. I surveyed the room, it felt like a talent fair. If each of them toasted me once, I'd be unconscious by midnight. Whatever. Let's turn this into a networking opportunity. I started making calls. Inviting all the business owners and heiresses I'd recently befriended. Say what you will, but men aren't the only ones who close deals over drinks. That night, the top male models of North City gathered under one roof, and my sisters left smiling from ear to ear. Over the next month, I signed contract after contract, working through those business cards one by one. But of course, my legendary moment, booking 80 male models in one night, spread like wildfire. What I didn't expect was that the first person to confront me was Tim's father. Despite the glowing financial reports I had delivered over the past 2 quarters, he still wasn't pleased. "Miss Brown, you do understand the main reason I brought you into White Family, don't you?" But clearly, your recent behavior has crossed a line. What reason? Wasn't it because I'm excellent? I answered seriously. And because I've helped Tim grow stronger. He narrowed his eyes. Do you know why my son listens to you so much? Wasn't that because we faked a bankruptcy scare and tricked him into thinking he had to shape up? Tim's dad clearly didn't want to continue that line of conversation. He gestured for his assistant to bring over a folder. If I had started thinking I was unstoppable, that my awakening had made me self-sufficient, invincible, and blessed by fortune. This file was a slap to the face. Turns out, the plan I thought I had orchestrated so brilliantly. Meeting Tim in a game, becoming brothers, launching a business. None of it was as organic as I believed. He had a hand in all of it. Tim truly likes you, he said. He's the one who stood by you, helping you reach your current position. I think you need to understand that. Miss Brown, everyone has their preferred way of life. But clearly, your current lifestyle is not something I can approve of. I don't want you to hurt my son. So let's be direct. You have two choices. Option 1, marry Tim. Become my daughter-in-law. If you want to continue working at White Group, I'll reserve a board seat for you. But if you marry into this family, you must follow our rules. Option 2, leave Tim, and I'll take back everything I've ever given you. He was forcing me to marry his son. In the original story, I knew Tim's dad had two sons. Though the elder brother was more capable, he favored the younger one. Otherwise, Tim wouldn't have been given the power to offer his own company's business just to please me. But I never expected Tim's dad would actually force me to marry his son. I wasn't going to choose either. If I chose option 1, what was the point of all my struggle to escape the original plot? Different path, same ending. If I chose option 2, what would all my efforts have been for? And knowing how long Tim's dad had been in the business world, his idea of taking everything back definitely went beyond my White family salary and perks. Mr. White, I said calmly, I choose neither. What's the point of pressuring a young woman like this? If you have thoughts, talk to your son directly. Perhaps he felt his authority had been challenged. As I turned to leave, I heard the sharp crash of porcelain shattering behind me. I straightened my back and walked out of White Group. Later, Tim found me. We stood in silence for a long time. Finally, he admitted everything. And it matched what his father had shown me. How ridiculous. All this time, I thought I'd earned everything through hard work. Turns out, it was all granted from above, allowed to happen. But that's fine. Because my goal was never about ego. It was about results. And I had reached a place far beyond anything written in the original book. Tim, you didn't need to do all this for me. If the Tim in the book was just deeply affectionate, then the Tim in this life? He was so loyal it was almost absurd. Who would believe a man would silently support the career of the woman he loved? Even as she dated and flirted with other men? If I told you I've lived an entire lifetime before. That you once stood between me and James, that you lost your freedom, even your life, for me. Tim looked up at me. Miss Brown, if the choice is between losing you completely and letting you live as you wish, freely, I'd rather let you go. Miss Brown. That was what he used to call me in the novel. Now, he only called me Jenny, President, or Bro, ha ha ha, just kidding. Look at your face. He burst into laughter, shattering the heavy mood. Damn it, bro, you scared the hell out of me. I gave him a light punch on the shoulder. News of Taylor family offloading their business units came 6 months later. While their public statement claimed it was to refocus on core operations, everyone in the industry knew the truth. Over the past year or so, Taylor family had invested heavily in developing new ventures. Only to have the key technologies snatched out from under them by none other than White family. Add to that the stagnation in their main business line, and Taylor family's operation became increasingly difficult. In truth, even a dying camel is bigger than a horse. With all the wealth Taylor family had amassed over the years, James shouldn't have reached the point of selling off assets. But I had insider knowledge. In the original story, as the ever-loyal heroine who helped James through thick and thin, I had a solid grasp of every weak point in the Taylor empire. And now, beyond knowledge, I also had resources. With Tim working seamlessly with me, Taylor family's downfall was only a matter of time. Tim and I met at a quiet bar by the river to celebrate. By then, I had already left White Group. And Tim, to prevent his father from continuing to trouble me, he agreed to take over the CEO position at the company. Sometimes, I wonder if all the pressure his dad put on me back then was just to force Tim into taking charge. But it didn't matter anymore. Working with Tim had been enjoyable. When I left White Group, the departments I oversaw had seen 3 consecutive quarters of profit growth, a solid report card. After that, I poured myself completely into my own company. It had followed White Group's growth path in the beginning, performing well. But once I took full control, I began branching into new industries. Because total dependence on others is always dangerous. And as it turned out, The very business Taylor Group was selling off? It was my company that bought it. That acquisition? It was a knot I had to untie. It was the exact sector from the novel. The one Taylor family and White family once fought over. The one Tim had once given up for me. Now I bought it back. And gave it back to him. With Taylor struggling this much, it's barely a purchase. James practically handed that business to you, Tim teased. If he ever finds out you only bought it to hand it over to me, he'll probably have a heart attack. I said nothing. Looking back, I had to admit. Not burning bridges with James made things a lot easier in the long run. I saw Lisa again at an industry expo in Needham. She was talking to a client. When the deal closed, she let out a tiny, excited squeal she couldn't suppress. The Lisa of the past had been delicate and soft. The Lisa of today? Strong and grounded. Her clothes weren't as polished as they used to be, but she radiated something more important, life. When I left the exhibition hall, it was pouring outside. My assistant had dropped me off earlier and was now off handling other errands elsewhere in Needham. He wouldn't be back for a while. And the ride-hailing app said the wait time was over an hour. That's when Lisa appeared. I thought I mistook you for someone else in the hall. Didn't expect it was really you. It's impossible to get a ride in weather like this. If you don't mind, I could give you a lift. I looked at her. She suddenly tilted her head upward, avoiding my gaze. Of course, if you like waiting in this hellish rain for 2 hours, then pretend I said nothing. Needham Villa. What? My address? We drove in silence. I figured Lisa still hated me. Just like I still hated her. As we neared my destination, her sarcasm returned. Wearing heels that high, running around all day? Aren't you afraid you'll break your ankle? I usually have a driver. Don't really walk much. Today's just an exception. I shot back. Jenny, you really know how to be annoying. A piercing horn cut through the rain and night. A freight truck barreled out of control, swerving into our lane. And that same woman, the one who claimed to hate me, held the steering wheel steady and swerved, putting herself in the truck's path. There was a violent collision. Everything spun. Blackness. I don't know how long I was out. A second? An hour? Jenny, get out. A weak voice from the driver's seat. From my position, I could see Lisa's body, bloodied, unrecognizable. Shut up. I fumbled with my seatbelt, but the car had flipped. The strap was stuck. I reached over to unfasten hers. Jenny, leave me, don't worry about me. Something wet trickled from my head, blurring my vision into a wash of red. Lisa, shut up. Jenny, I really did hate you. If I had a second chance, I'd probably still envy you, still act out. But I also loved how bright you were. I hated you, but thank you, Jenny. You made me want to try living differently. Turns out, owning your life completely? Feels damn good. Lisa, we might die here. Yeah, sob. I'm sorry, Jenny. I shouldn't have offered you that ride. I didn't think the one time I tried to do something good, it'd end up like this. I'll repay you in the next life, okay? Idiot. Lisa kept speaking, kept trying. Straining with everything she had to unbuckle my seatbelt. As if pouring the last of her life into it. But it was too late. The truck we collided with was a tanker. I could hear it. Oil, spilling across the pavement. And then, blinding light swallowed us both. And the world went silent. I woke from the dream. The world was eerily quiet. On my bedside table sat a dog-eared copy of a tragic, Chasing the Wife Back novel. I flipped it open. The book hadn't changed. So, it was just a dream? A female lead in a sob story romance. There's no such thing as a triumphant ending. Only heartbreak. A life wasted in the name of love. It was all a dream. Yes, if this were real life. Why would the powerful ever give up their power so easily? If a man has fame and fortune, why would he remain loyal to just one woman? Even more so, why would he be devastated after losing her? Why would a man, when he could have a caged bird, choose to become the stepping stone beneath a woman's feet? Whether in fiction or in dreams, men were romanticized. And women made small. I walked barefoot to the bathroom, grabbed a lighter, and set the book on fire. Watched it catch flame, burn to ash, then flushed it down the toilet. The rage still simmered in my chest. I thought, stories shouldn't be written that way. I opened my laptop. And began to type. A new story. A new journey for my Jenny. My Jenny. She's brilliant, resilient, powerful. She attracts others of equal worth. She's had relationships, but love is just seasoning in the feast of her life. Yes, the world has men like James and Tim. But in reality, they're just as arrogant as James, as fickle as Tim. Men in power do not surrender that power for love. And Jenny? She understands the rules of this world too well. She doesn't fall for gentle lies. Everything around her is her tool. Climbing upward is hard. Harder than novels and dreams suggest. But she never gives up. She always puts herself first. She leverages every resource, fights every battle. She climbed from the base of the mountain to its peak. Her scars becoming armor, her wounds turning into medals. People call her names. Cold. Ruthless. Ambitious. She hears it all as applause. Because an eagle soaring in the sky does not hear the gossip below. Her eyes are fixed on the horizon. On greater lands and higher peaks.